What time is it, guys?
Cookie time.
We're gonna make what type of cookie?
Hamantaschen.
Hi everyone, it's Raquel here. I am so excited because in today's video, my children and I are going to be making Hamantaschen for the Jewish holiday of Purim or Purim. And in the process, I also want to share with you the basics of how to celebrate Purim. I know there are many Christians, especially Torah observant Christians such as myself, that are wanting to celebrate Purim but never have and don't really know how to get started. So this video is for you. Unfortunately, I had planned a Purim party for this year, but my daughter ended up in the hospital, my 5-week-old daughter. We just got back out of the hospital and thank God my daughter is okay and everyone in my family is healthy again, but that's why you haven't heard from me, and I don't have a community tab, so I can't announce that to you and let you know. I think you have to have like 1,000 subscribers or something, so make sure you share my channel, let other people who might be interested in my content know about it so that I can have a community tab. But anyhow, everyone's healthy. We are not having our Purim party. We are going to be having a little get together with our congregation. But in this video, we're going to be making Hamantaschen. I'm not sharing a recipe, but I will link the 2 different recipes that I am going to be trying this year. Last year, my Hamantaschen came out all puffy and not right. So I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to do a tutorial on how to make Hamantaschen yet. I'm not an expert. But this video is just going to be the basics of how we celebrate Purim and how you might celebrate Purim. So come along, join us. I hope you learn a lot in this video and enjoy us making our cookies. Okay, so it turns out it's actually really hard to talk to the camera and make cookies with children at the same time. I'm going to be making a second batch of Hamantaschen. Let's just get started making these cookies and talking about how to celebrate Purim. One of the awesome things about Purim or Purim is that pretty much all of it, all of the traditions associated with it, comes from Scripture. It's established in Scripture. And I love that because there's nothing questionable about Purim. The origin of the name itself is found in Esther chapter 9, verse 26, I believe. I have a Bible right here so I can reference. Wherefore they call these days Purim after the name of Pur. And it kind of goes back into verse 24 what Pur means. It means lot in, I guess, Persian. I'm not really sure what language Pur means lot in, but it's not a Hebrew word. It's kind of like adopted in, and then they just added the im, the I-M at the end to make it plural, so lots. And then the pronunciation, there's a couple of different ways that people say it, either Purim or Purim. So yeah, it's really great that, every single part of this holiday is, established in Scripture or comes from Scripture. There's no question if a tradition has, ungodly origins. There is one that people question a lot, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But basically, the traditions of how to celebrate Purim are found in the book of Esther in chapter 9, verse 22. Really starting in verse 21, it establishes what day it happens, which is the 14th day of the month of Adar. And then in verse 22 it says, as the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another and gifts to the poor. And Mordecai is the one who kind of establishes this, and then Esther reiterates it with another letter that Purim is indeed a Jewish festival now. The first thing that we read in Esther chapter 9 verse 22 is that it's a day of feasting. So of course feasting entails lots of food, gathering together with friends. So it's very traditional to have a party or a carnival, some type of get together where you're getting together and just having fun and really celebrating, the events that happened in the book of Esther. One of the traditional foods that you would eat during Purim is Hamantaschen, which is what I'm making. And Hamantaschen are supposed to represent the hat, the 3-cornered hat that Haman, supposedly wore. And they're these cookies that are triangular shaped, and in the middle you put jelly inside of them. They're really tasty, and unfortunately mine came out really puffy last year, so even though they went in the oven super cute and perfectly shaped, they came out all puffy. And I think it was because I didn't refrigerate my dough, which I am doing this time. You know why Hamantaschen come out puffy? Let me know in the comments, because I would love to fix that, and we'll see if it happens this year. I hope not. So feasting, have lots of friends, have lots of food, eat lots of Hamantaschen. The second thing it says is that it's a time of joy, because in the book of Esther, if you're familiar with the details of it, the Jewish people were about to be annihilated. And this is, of course, just one of the many attempts that the enemy has tried to destroy God's people, but this is one of the reasons why I love to celebrate Purim. God is always faithful to his people, and he's faithful to his covenant. And he told Abraham that he would be with his seed and that his seed would be blessed and would multiply and etc., etc. God's faithful to his covenant. And so he has preserved the Jewish people over many attempts of genocide and annihilation. And so that's one of the reasons we celebrate Purim as a Christian family, as a Torah observant Christian family, is because we are so thankful that God is faithful. And we are so thankful that he has protected his people and preserved them, and that he will continue to do so. And it's also another, it's a stance on our part that we will stand with the Jewish people and for their good and for the preservation of their life. So anyhow, back to this tradition, it's a time of joy. So traditionally at a lot of Purim parties or carnivals, you'll see lots of color. And I don't really like this comparison, but it's kind of compared to the Mardi Gras of Judaism. In other words, it's just to say that it's like bright, colorful, like exciting, just kind of over the top with the joy and exuberance and things like that. I don't know if y'all understand Mardi Gras. I'm from Louisiana, so, I do. And so it's just a time for, lots of fun, lots of joy, and just a time to be thankful that God has preserved the Jewish people and that he is always faithful to his covenant. Now, the next part that it said was sending portions to one another and gifts to the poor. Traditionally, these gifts and the portions are considered food that you would send, and of course, Hamantaschen are included in that. I don't know necessarily that it is required to be food, but that is traditional. And so this year I had planned, like I said, to have a Purim party, and we were actually going to have a food bank drive. But like I said, we're not having a Purim party this year. So I am just going to be giving prepared Hamantaschen to our friends and our family. And along with these Hamantaschen, I'm also sending those Hamantaschen cards that I made. And inside the cards, my husband and I brainstormed 3 different things that we really appreciate about each family, and we wrote those in there. So it's going to be Hamantaschen for the soul and Hamantaschen for the stomach. So it's going to be great. And I know traditionally this is called oh my goodness, I used to know how to say it. Mishloach Menot. I might have mispronounced that, sorry. So you can make baskets of food and things like that. I'm going to link a really beautiful video that my friend Melissa did on her channel. Feasting, joy, and then gifts to the poor and food portions to your friends and family. Don't forget your Hamantaschen. The next thing that's traditional for celebrating Purim, you might have noticed that when I've said Haman, boo, I've shouted boo. And that is based actually in Deuteronomy chapter 25 verse 19. Thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven, thou shalt not forget it. So this is a really funny phrasing. It basically says, remember to forget Amalek and the Amalekite. And so this is why we boo Haman, because Haman is an Agagite, and the Agagites are descendants of the Amalekites. So whenever we say Haman, then we boo, we hiss, we shake something and make noise. So it's a way that we're remembering, but then we're also blotting out his name, so we're forgetting it at the same time. So that's where that tradition comes from. And there's all kinds of really cool noisemakers or groggers that you can make. Pinterest has 1,000,001 amazing ideas, and I wish that I could make them. This year, I'm probably honestly just going to take little glass jars and fill them with split peas and corn and even bread tabs, just anything like colorful, and we're going to shake those. And it is based in scripture, so I love that. While you're remembering these events and you're, blotting out Haman's name, boo, then part of the tradition of Purim is to read the story of Purim, which is the book of Esther. So read the whole book. It's just like 10 chapters, super short, very manageable to read all in one sitting. And it's in a narrative form, so it's like a story, and it's really very thorough and just a good read in general. Maybe Esther chapter 9 verse 28, where it basically says to remember the events that happen from generation to generation, and it actually says it in the book of Esther several times, like don't forget what happened here, don't forget what happened here. So what's a great way to not forget? Read the story every single year. Remember what happened. Remember the deliverance of God. Some people also put on like a play, or they watch a play, which is what we're going to be doing with our congregation on Wednesday night. But this is another reason why, as Christians, we love to celebrate Purim, because it is such a great, fun, hands-on way to remember and learn about the book of Esther and what happened in the book of Esther. And finally, the last tradition we're going to talk about, since I'm all done with my cookie dough and I need to wrap it up and put it in the refrigerator, is to wear costumes. Now, some people say this is an imitation of Halloween. No, not really. No, it's not established in Scripture to wear costumes. However, the reason why they wear costumes during Purim is based on Scripture and the fact that Esther was a disguised Jew, and nothing in the book of Esther is as it seems. It seems like, the Jews are about to meet their final end, and just everything's lining up that way. But really, on the underside, God is working out their deliverance in a very miraculous, unanticipated way. It first appeared in Jewish Halakha in the 15th century. I don't personally think that it is an imitation of Halloween or anything like that. There are many cultures that dress up for various reasons. These costumes are not to try to disguise yourself so that the spirits of the dead won't recognize you or anything like that. It's to remember this very important element of the book of Esther, which is that God was working on the underside. He was still bringing about their deliverance in just an unanticipated way, unexpected way, and when every hope seemed lost, there was actually still a plan that God had for his people, and it was just all in disguise, and they didn't know it until it came to pass. So I really like that. My family likes to dress up in biblical costumes, and this year I made outfits for Abigail to be young Hadassah and Malachi to be Mordecai. I am not going to do a tutorial on how to make those, but I will link the video of how to make a peasant dress, which is what I did to make my daughter's young Hadassah costume. It turned out really cute, but it turned out also not quite right in the sleeves particularly. But anyhow, so I pray that God would just bless all of you and keep you. I'm going to talk with you later. Bye-bye.